Okay. Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is David Paoli, and I'm the director of the school in France, and I'm here with my colleagues, Kelly and Amy. Our goal today is to introduce you to our school. We will first introduce ourselves briefly. We will present our sites and the philosophy of our programs, our language pledge. We will then discuss the academic options and the co-curricular activities offered through the schools. And finally, we'll talk about housing. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've been directing the school in France for 20 years. I had previously been on the French faculty at Dickinson College in Pennsylvania. Besides overseeing the administration of the school in France, I'm responsible for our undergraduate program in Poitiers and our graduate programs in Paris. We offer an MA in French and another in applied French. Amy?
So hello, everyone, or bonsoir. I think you can tell from the darkness outside, it is evening here in Paris. So my name is Amy Tondu. I am the Associate Director of Middlebury College's School in France, based here in Paris. I am directly responsible for the undergraduate programs in both Bordeaux and Paris. And I've been with Middlebury for almost 12 years now, after 10 years working with the French Fulbright Commission. I would like to say a word on behalf of our colleague Lucy, who can't be with us this evening. She's our student life coordinator, but you will have her email address at the end of the presentation, and you shouldn't hesitate to contact her if you have any questions with regards to student life in Paris. Kelly?
Hi, my name is Kelly Bohan. I am actually an alumni of the Middlebury Institute of International Studies in Monterey, and I've been working here at the Middlebury School in France for the last 3 years. I'm the program officer, and my responsibilities are a bit varied. I work in program administration, and I'm also working with David and Amy on the academic programs in Paris, and I manage the cultural programming in the Bordeaux and the Poitiers sites. David, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that. Let's start by talking briefly about our sites. We have students in 3 sites in France: Paris, Poitiers, and Bordeaux, 3 different, very different environments. We typically have between 30 and 45 students in the fall, and between 40 and 70 students in the spring, including our graduate students. So Paris first, northern central France, the oldest of all Middlebury sites abroad. It was first established in 1949 to host graduate students of the Middlebury School of French. Undergrads began to study in Paris in the 1960s. Poitiers in central western France, and Bordeaux in southwestern France, offer alternatives to Paris for students who prefer to live in a smaller environment. Poitiers, with a population of about 130,000, double that figure for its urban area, is located about an hour and a half away from Paris by train. Poitiers' most famous period of history was during the Middle Ages, in the time of Eleanor of Aquitaine. Bordeaux, with a population of about 258,000 inhabitants and nearly 800,000 people in the urban area, is approximately 2.5 or 3 hours from Paris by train. It is the 6th largest French city. Bordeaux is well known for its wine. I don't need to say it, of course, and its beautiful 18th century architecture. I turn it to Amy.
Thank you, David. So regardless of the site that a student may choose, the philosophy or the The mission of our program remains the same. So our program is really structured in a way such that language proficiency and intercultural competency are developed in students via concrete, meaningful experiences, both inside and outside the classroom. And then probably the characteristic trait, sorry about the franglais, for which we're the most known, it's the language pledge and students' commitment to speaking French 24/7. It is the means by which they develop their language skills and tremendously increase their cultural integration. By living and studying with the French in homestays and their direct enrollment courses, and involving themselves in various ways in the community through volunteer work or internships or the numerous extracurricular activities that they tend to get involved in, they really have a chance to build authentic relationships and integrate fully into life in their host city, be it Bordeaux, Paris, or Poitiers. We collaborate with numerous individuals in Bordeaux and Poitiers, faculty, student assistants, etc., to help support our students who are outside of Paris. And we really depend or rely on the international relations offices at our partner institutions. So in Bordeaux, they are Sciences Po Bordeaux and the University of Bordeaux-Montaigne, and then in Poitiers, the University of Poitiers. So David and I are both based in Paris, but we communicate with and regularly meet with students in Bordeaux and Poitiers, respectively. Some of those meetings have been taking place via Zoom, but it's a regular and very constant communication and interaction. Kelly, can we move to the next? Thank you very much. With regards to academics, I'd like to take a few minutes just to present several highlights to our academic program. Direct enrollment is an integral part of the academic program at all three sites. It is 100% direct enrollment in Bordeaux and in Poitiers, and it's more of a hybrid program, part direct enrollment, part in-house coursework for the students based in Paris. And we'll go into that difference a little bit later. But again, what is common to all three sites is the direct enrollment component. All coursework has to be done in French, part of the language pledge obliges. Annual students participating on our program will obtain between 8 and 9 Middlebury units of credit for the duration of their stay. Semester students can get anywhere between 4 to 5 units. And what we have been doing in the past 2 years now, if I remember correctly, in coordination with the Registrar of Middlebury College, is to put into place the European Credit Transfer System, or ECTS, in deciding what credit we're going to award for completed courses. What this means concretely is that our students have a full course load of 27 to 30 ECTS per semester, and that is approximately the equivalent of 15 to 18 contact hours per week. And so the distribution of Middlebury College credit units is determined by the number of ECTS credits of the courses that they're taking, either in-house or direct enrollment. And this normal full workload is a requirement for all School in France participants, be the Middlebury College students or students coming from the numerous partner sending schools we have in the United States. With regards to French academic culture, I did want to spend a minute emphasizing or stressing the amount of time that we spend with students before their arrival, during on-site orientation, and then throughout the semester, helping them understand this very particular French academic culture, and in particular, the differences in teaching or learning styles, grading systems, etc. And this is probably the reason why, and Kelly, can I ask you to move to, thank you. We do provide a tremendous amount of academic support at, again, all three sites in the form of methodology workshops and or individual tutorials. The methodology workshops are anywhere between 6 and 12 hours of interaction with a French faculty member who is going to help introduce our students to what French university life is like, how classes are organized, what kind of assignments are typically asked of them in their field of study, and help them learn and practice the academic writing styles that are very, again, particular to French university culture. And I think I am passing it on to David now.
Thank you, Amy. So Middlebury's network of partner institutions in France has grown to be quite diversified, as you can see. We actually have exchange agreements with most of our partner institutions in France, which means that each year, a number of French students go and study at Middlebury or at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey in California. Subject covered. Kelly, next slide, please. So we cover a wide range of disciplines between Bordeaux, Paris, and Poitiers, as you can see. Our advice to students is to take courses within their major. There are subjects that are offered at the 3 sites and others not. So others are taught in 1 site or in 2 sites, but not in 3. STEM students would likely choose to study in Poitiers. We'll talk a little bit more about the STEM program later. Students in political science, for instance, are encouraged to study at Sciences Po Bordeaux and at Sciences Po Paris, although there are fewer spots at Sciences Po Paris. Students are expected to discuss, of course, their options with their academic advisors back at their home institutions, because it's very important to plan ahead of time what students' coursework is going to be. In Poitiers, the specialty of Poitiers, but it's not the only specialty, but we tend to get more students for sciences in Poitiers. Our STEM students not only take classes at the University of Poitiers, but they also participate in research projects within the university labs, but that's only in the spring semester. Here in the picture, Catherine worked in a Poitiers hospital lab. She investigated the benefits and challenges associated with the 70 magnetic resonance, which doesn't mean much to me personally, but wonderful research project for a science student. And another student, for example, worked on organ transplantation. You will find more information on our website on the STEM program in Poitiers, including testimonials from students who completed the research project with the lab. And Amy will now talk about our center in Paris.
Thank you, David. With regards to something that David just mentioned and to which I'm going to be referring in a moment, we have compiled a list of links to either testimonials, written testimonials on the Middlebury College's website in the School in France pages, or to videos, again, to which we'll be referring in the next few minutes. And we will be giving you at the very end of the presentation, one of the last slides, I believe, a link to a Google Doc that that includes all of these links. Again, I apologize for the franglais. So for those of you who may be either advising students interested in Paris or who are students potentially coming or applying to the program in Paris, I did want to share a little bit about our physical space, our center, and the way the academic program works here. So here we have, and again, you have the link underneath the YouTube link, a video that Kelly and I did last year to introduce individuals interested in the program to our center. It is, again, located in the 8th district of Paris by the Madeleine Church, hence the name Centre Madeleine. So I would encourage you to have a look at the video at your leisure. Kelly, next slide. Thank you. A few words on the program of study for participants in our Paris program. Students take an online placement exam before arrival in order to determine whether or not they will need to take an in-house French language course during their stay. And if they do, what level of course they should be placed in. And we have typically 2 levels offered in-house. Sorry, we have traffic noises outside. And either an intermediate or an advanced intermediate level offered. And what happens is that during on-site orientation, we actually ask students to take a second test. The French government has put into place a new diagnostic tool or placement test entitled EVA-Langue that we ask all of our students to take upon arrival. And that helps us to really confirm the initial placement that we had in mind, and confirm that with our French language instructors before the semester starts and the courses start. Students can also take up to 2, so between 0, 1, and 2 content courses. And this is, again, in addition to the direct enrollment courses they'll be taking at one of our partner schools or universities. The in-house content courses or electives tend to be in the following subject areas: cinema, history, literature, European studies, or Franco-European relations, and political science. Kelly, next slide, please. Thank you. You'll find here, again, another link to a video. This is a video testimonial from one of our school in France faculty members, Nicolas Rousselier, who is a professor of political history at Sciences Po Paris and has been teaching both for the school in France and for the School of French summer school for many years. He shares a bit in this video about his experience with our program with Middlebury College students, or participants, the kinds of courses he teaches and has taught. And I think it really gives you a better understanding of the kind of welcoming and inclusive learning environment that we and our faculty strive to provide to students. Now I'm going to turn it over to Kelly, who's going to talk a little bit more about the opportunities for learning outside of the classroom. Kelly?
Thank you, Amy. Yes, so one of the ways that we really want to encourage students to be learning about France, French culture, the French language in a variety of ways. And one of the ways in which they can do this outside of the classroom is through credit-bearing internships. So in Paris, we work with USA. It's an internship placement agency, and students will intern part-time, and they are required to present a research paper that is related to the topic of their internship at the end of the semester. And this is a guided internship, and these internships really give the students the opportunity to learn about French work culture and to improve their French language skills, of course, by working with French colleagues, and to further develop their professional competencies. In addition to the internships, there are also the possibility for research projects in laboratories and Poitiers. And these are credit-bearing research projects that have a laboratory component. And this is only for students in the spring semester. In addition to the internships, we also have offer some opportunities for students to engage more with the community. So through volunteer work. Buddy system. So we have a buddy system in which French university students from some of our partner institutions will take the students around a couple of times in a month in the beginning of their stay, and present them university and student and cultural life in their respective site. And students are also able to sign up to have a French language partner throughout the semester. And as for volunteer work, in the past, our students have worked with local associations in a variety of fields, such as advocacy for climate change, support for survivors of domestic and sexual assault and violence, and support for homeless and immigrant populations. In addition to the opportunities for engagement with the community, we want to talk a little bit about cultural activities, because we are very happy to be able to say that we can still offer students the opportunity to participate in a cultural activity calendar in Paris, Poitiers, and Bordeaux during the COVID context. We adapted the design of our cultural calendar to adhere to guidelines and recommendations. And we do this by offering, sometimes we'll have indoor activities multiple times so that we're able to offer these activities to smaller groups of students. And we're also offering more outdoor activities than we have in the past. And students can still take part in guided tours, workshops, and theater outings, of course, but always with their mask. Some of these activities are included in the program fee, and others we offer to students at reduced rates. And these activities are just another opportunity for them to enhance their language skills and increase their cultural knowledge outside of the classroom while they're in France for a semester or for a year. In addition to, and these are some photos of activities that we had already this semester, and you'll see the students are still having the opportunity to taste some wine and cheese and learn how to make baguettes and croissants and go to a science themed park in the theater. So students are still really able to really take advantage of their time here in France. And we also have organized day trips in addition to the regular cultural activities that we have. So these day trips are taking place we organize these in all 3 sites a few times per semester, typically on a Saturday, and they're offering students the chance to visit a cultural site that's near their host city. It might not be necessarily in the city, it might be just outside of it. And so as an example, this semester, our students in Paris have visited the Chateau of Chantilly and Versailles. And the Poitiers students were able to visit the Chateau de Chenonceau, which is one of a very famous and beautiful castle in the Loire Valley, as well as the historical city of Tours. And the Bordelais, the Bordeaux students, were able to visit the seaside town of La Rochelle and the wine-producing village of Saint-Emilion. So that's just kind of an idea of the kinds of ways our students are still able to really make the most out of their time in France and engage with the culture and discover France. And now I'd like to just say a few words about the housing options that are available for our students. So as an immersion program, our philosophy is to offer housing options that will put students in direct contact with the host culture so that linguistic and cultural learning is also happening at home. So in the classroom, out of the classroom, and at home. Living with a host family is possible in all 3 of the sites, although I would like to mention that there are limited options in Poitiers. And then living in student residence halls is possible in both Paris and Poitiers, but just to note that in Paris, there are limited spaces in the foyer or the independent residence halls. And I will turn it over to Amy to just say a few words about the student meals that we have.
Great, thank you, Kelly. So now, before we wrap up and open up for questions, we'd like to offer you some recent student perspectives on their time in France. Again, in the interest of time, we suggest that you have a look at them later at your leisure. The first one we have is from Kayla. Kayla Thomas was an annual student here for the academic year 2019-2020. That being said, until March 2020. She was enrolled in French history and French literature courses at the University Bordeaux-Montaigne and had a wonderful stay. So again, I encourage you to have a look at her video. Kelly, could you move to the next slide? Thank you. We also have a wonderful contribution from Andrea, who was a student here in Paris with us for the 2019-2020 academic year. He was a student in architecture and the history of architecture art at one of our partner schools here in Paris, the École Spéciale d'Architecture. And I should preface that this video, Andrea did very kindly for us last year for a webinar that International Programs and Off-Campus Study did on internships abroad. So he talks a little more specifically about his motivations for doing an academic internship or an internship for credit, the skills he developed in doing so, et cetera. And we're really using it here and wanted to include it and share it with you because it illustrates beautifully the kind of international personal development, linguistic progress, increase in intercultural communication skills, and pre-professional opportunities that our students are gaining not only from internships abroad, but basically from the immersion experience in general. So again, I would encourage you to have a look at it later. And then we also have a wonderful testimonial from Bryce Williamson, who was a semester-only student in Poitiers in the spring of 2017. And Bryce is actually our first STEM student in Poitiers. He lived with a homestay and he was working in a lab and doing research on isopods, otherwise known as pill bugs or roly-polies, in a lab specializing in ecological and biological interactions. So if you or any of your students, or if you as a student, you're interested in the STEM option in Poitiers, I would highly recommend you're having a look at and listening to what Bryce has to say. All that being said, again, and I think I put in, I hit the send button too early in the chat, the link to the Google document that has all of the links to the written or the video testimonials. Please feel free to have a look at that and or share it with your colleagues or with students. Catherine, would you mind going over it? Thank you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine. I work here at Middlebury College in the International Programs and Off-Campus Studies office. So just to give you a little bit of information about the application process itself, we have a few different deadlines. So for Middlebury students, if you want to study abroad anytime next year, you have one deadline, and that's February 1st. So you still have some time, and you can feel free to come into the office. We're here in Sunderland, and you can meet with Susan Parsons, who's the program advisor. If you are one of the many students we have from outside Middlebury College, you have two different application deadlines. For the spring semester, it just passed. It was October 1st. So if you're interested in spring 2023, you have a little bit of time. If you want to study abroad for the full year or for the fall of 2022, that's March 15th. And similarly, Susan Parsons is here for you as well. She can set up a Zoom call with you to do advising, talk through the academics, talk through what other students have gone through in the past, and maybe even set you up with someone who has, said they would be a resource for future students, which is always a good idea. In terms of the requirements for the program, if you can go back, Kelly, thanks. There's a requirement of a 5th semester French course, and I'll explain what that means, for everything except the STEM track. So if you're interested in studying in Poitiers and doing the STEM track, you need 4 semesters of college level French or the equivalent. For the regular program, if it's not the STEM track, you need 2 years of French, plus 1 content course. So anything taught in French that goes beyond intermediate grammar. So it's usually a literature course or film or history taught in French. If you have already been taking French, if you came into college with high school level French, or you studied it independently and you tested in, that counts too. We just want to make sure you've at least taken that final content course before coming on the program. You need to see a B average in your major and a B- overall. And we want to see you taking a language course the semester before you study abroad, just so you don't put too much distance in between semesters and you're not super rusty when you arrive. In terms of the application process itself, it's pretty straightforward. There's an application from our website, and you open up a portal. So you have your own account where you put in a personal statement about why you want to study abroad and why you want to choose that destination, a copy of your passport. If you don't have a passport yet, don't let that stop you from applying, but do start the process as early as possible, especially now things are delayed and it's taking a while to get a new passport or a renewal. We need a copy of your transcript We need approval from your study abroad advisor. So if you're coming from outside Middlebury, we want to make sure you're going to get credit for the semester abroad, which we have a lot of partnerships with a lot of schools. So that shouldn't be a problem. But if your study abroad office doesn't know about us already, get in touch with us and we'll help facilitate that process. We need a letter of recommendation, which is basically a language assessment from a recent French professor, a writing sample. And then if you're coming from outside of Middlebury, there's an application fee of $75. And I can open it up for questions. If anyone wants to unmute, you can feel free to ask that way or use the chat function and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
I have a small question about the internships programs that you were mentioning earlier. I believe you said that in Paris, it's obligatory to have a internship program and a research paper at the end. Is that just in Paris or is it also in Bordeaux and Poitiers?
It's not obligatory to take part in a credit-bearing internship while in Paris. It's just obligatory to complete a research paper and present a research paper at the end of the internship if you do choose to do, if one does choose to do the academic internship. But no, this is not a requirement for students in Paris, Poitiers, or in Bordeaux.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. The internship, I see this, the question in the chat about how internships are found. And so EUSA is, I'm gonna maybe add the link onto the Google Doc actually, if you would like to, read a little bit more about them, but they actually specialize in finding internship placements kind of in the field of interest of the students who are interested in interning. So there's a process where students will, provide their letter of motivation and a resume, and there will be some meetings with EUSA to kind of come up with an idea of what kind of an internship placement would kind of suit the students' educational and professional interests. And EUSA is the one who will kind of take charge in finding an internship site for that student based on these interactions that they have. Amy, did I catch everything on that piece?
But feel free to
Actually
contact us.
The link in the chat, thanks.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just gonna perhaps say to Alessandra and Anna who are asking questions about the internships to contact us directly. It's more specifically our colleague Lucy Kingu, who manages the internship program with our provider, USA. So she could answer directly any questions you may have, very specific questions with regards to how the internship program works in Paris. So don't hesitate to pop off an email to her. And you're not obliged to have any questions right now. If things come to mind at a later date, I would reiterate the fact that we are very happy to answer any questions you may have at a later time. We're very accessible and reachable, so please don't hesitate.
Catherine, will you be sharing the PDF of the PowerPoint presentation with?
Sure. I can send the slides as well as the recording. Definitely.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I don't know if the link that is embedded on this slide will actually work when it's converted into a PDF. But at any rate, we have all of the contact information here, and there is that Google Doc where I'm going to add the USA internships link, and you'll find all of those student testimonials, like Amy was saying, as well as the visit of the center and the testimonial from our faculty member. And of course, like Amy said, if anyone has any questions that come up later, that's sometimes usually what happens more often than not. Please don't hesitate to contact us and reach out.
But if it's anything really related to the application process, you should probably direct those questions to Susan Parsons, as we mentioned earlier. She's also obviously advises for the school in France and has been for years. But she's also an alumna of our program, which means that from personal experience, she has a lot to share and perhaps to offer in terms of strictly program and personal advice with regards to perhaps choosing the site or in-house courses, etc.
Great. Well, if we don't have any other questions, we'll let you go. Thank you to my colleagues in France who are
Thank
up
you.
a little bit later to give this presentation. It was really helpful. It always is. And thanks to you, those of you who have come, and those of you who are watching this recording who registered. Please get in touch with any questions.
Merci.
Merci. Bye-bye.
Merci, bonne soirée, bonne journée.